Comparing Excel sheets using the UiPath activities is very, very easy. Let me show you how. We go to the course materials, you can find the link in the description below, and then we download. This can be done by clicking the three dots here and click download. Now let me place the file on my desktop so it's easily accessible. You could also create your own data if you rather want to use that. Then we move to UiPath. What we want to do is to open up the Excel sheet and then do a comparison. So if I go to sheet 1, I have 2 columns, ID, name, 3 rows, Alpha Bravo Charlie with a unique ID attached. Similarly on sheet 2, I have 2 columns, ID, name, the same columns, then I have the ID 2, 3, 4, Bravo Charlie Delta. So they look almost the same, but they differ slightly. The first thing that we will do is to find out which rows these 2 tables have in common. So we move to UiPath and create the automation there. So at UiPath, make sure you click the process because we will do a process. And here I'll say compare Excel sheets like that and click create. We will use this entire process for all our comparisons today, so make sure you follow from the beginning. And by the way, I'm Jensen, I'm a UiPath most valuable professional. Let's learn some UiPath. So let me maximize it a bit further here, but so we can still see the Excel. That's it. So I open up the main workflow. One thing that we will do, we will use some activities, which is from the Modern Design Experience package. And those ones are the activities that UiPath will use in the future, so better get used to them. To make sure you have those ones enabled if you are not really sure, then go to Project, click the wheel up here. In general, make sure you have the Modern Design Experience enabled. That's it. Now we can create it. So first we will read the 2 Excel sheets into DataTables. The reason is that we can work with DataTables very easily. So click Activities, and go up here, find a read range, and choose the one on the workbook. We do that because that will work whether you have an Excel installed or not. So drag it in. We need the workbook path, and we have the workbook up here. So I just shift right click, copy as path. Then I go back here. Instead of hard coding it in, we use the best practice and create a variable for the workbook path so that if it changes, we can easily change it in the variables. You do that by clicking the variables down here and then create a variable. You can call it whatever you want. I like to call it something like str Excel path. So this variable will hold the path to the Excel sheet. And then in default, I simply just press Ctrl V to paste it in. So yours will look slightly different unless your name is Anders Jensen, of course, which I doubt. Then I can close this variable manager here, and up here in workbook path, I can, if I forgot what I called the variable, I can press Ctrl space, and then I can see str Excel path and press tab. I could, of course, also have written it. So this variable will take the value that we just created here. That is the path. That is clever. We will read the sheet 1. This is the sheet 1, so that is perfectly fine. We will read the entire range, so delete what's in here, like this. Then we just need to specify which data table we want to read this Excel sheet in. So over here, go to Properties, then in Output, press Ctrl K and call it DT Sheet 1. Again, you can choose whatever name you want, but let's keep a descripting name. So now we're reading the Excel sheet 1 into a data table called DT Sheet 1. I repeat, you can choose whatever name you want over here in Output. This is just for reference. We do the exact same thing when we want to read the sheet 2 into a data table. So what I can do is to do the same, drag it in, fill it in, or I can press Ctrl C and below here press Ctrl V. So this will of course repeat the action from up here if we don't do nothing. So what I want to do, I want to read the sheet 2. So instead of sheet 1, I just type in 2. Over here in Output, I will delete it. Again, press Ctrl K. That will create a new variable. I'll call it DT Sheet 2. So now we have written both our Excel sheets into data tables. We can start the comparison. First, we want to find out which one of the rows from sheet 1 that is present in sheet 2. I'll first do it by adding a little check mark to another column, and then I'll write out the rows to an entire new sheet. So let's go do it. Do the steps with me, drag in these things, type whatever I do. If it goes too fast, just rewind. The video is designed for that. So we will have a new column, and I'll go up here, I'll say add, then I'll say add data column here and drag it in. This is just to create another column next to ID and name. You can create it manually in your Excel, but I like to do it automatically. Here I need to specify the column name. I want it to be match, and since it's a string, so make quotation mark, UiPath will automatically make another one and place the cursor in the middle. I'll just call this match. Call it whatever you want your column to be named. There you go. Now we need to say which data table do we need to add this column name to. Since we will be updating sheet 1, I will be adding the column name to sheet 1. So I go down here. Again, I can press Control Space if I forgot what I called my data tables. So I press Control Space. There you go. DT sheet 1 or DT sheet 2. I will, as said, written the new column into DT sheet 1. So I just press Tab and we're done here. Having done all the pre-work, we can start the comparison. Our strategy is to read each row in sheet 1 and see if first this ID, does that exist over here? So we'll iterate through each row over here. This will of course not exist, so we won't update the new column. 2 Bravo, does that exist over here? Yes, ID 2 is here, so we will update our newly created column. It's a little bit more easy to see it in action. That's why I want you to build, so please build with me. So we do an iteration. I want to iterate through sheet 1, so I'll find a for each data row here and drag it in. Here I'll say for each row in data table, and we call it something. So for each Q and row, this is just a reference. You can delete it and even say for each G in a data table, but it's nice to have the same reference. So I'll just keep it with the Q and row. It was just to illustrate that this is just a name for reference. It doesn't matter what it says here. Then I want to specify which data table do I want to iterate through. Since I want to iterate through the data table that we created up here, that was from the sheet 1, I'll just type in DT, and you can see the IntelliSense is coming without us having to press Control Space. Then I press Tab, so we're iterating to this. So I'm taking each one of these rows, and first I have a row here. That will be this one. Then I want to look into sheet 2 to find out if this row, that is the unique idea, exists in sheet 2. So what I will create here is a nested loop. So I drag this one in here. And since you can see here, we have a for each Q and row, and we have a for each Q and row here. Those ones are quite like each other, or actually they are very like each other. So a good thing could say, so up here, say for each row in data table, and to name it, I'll just say out here, I'll say outer, like this, and this one I will call inner. It will be okay here because I'm here to hold your hand, but please remember to rename your activities to more describing names. It is very easy when you develop, but say another developer come in, or you have to update it in the future. Think of the future you. Another thing. So here I'm referencing to Q and row, and as I told you, this is a reference name. Since those two here can get mixed up, we will call this something else. I'll just say, for example, Q and line. You can call it whatever you want. And since we're taking each row from sheet 1, now I need to iterate to sheet 2. So I have a row here, and then I want to look in sheet 2. So I'll just say DT sheet 2. So now we have it. We have one line from here, and we see if that exists here. So we need to make some sort of a comparison. Right now we're just looping through each one of the data tables. Nothing will happen. To do so, we will have an if. Here we have an if, and I drag it in. What I want to ask is that we have the Q and row here. That will be this one here in the first place. I want to ask, is the idea, is that equal to this? If it's not, I will continue. Let me go back to UiPath. So how I do this is that I ask a question here that can only be answered true or false. If it's true, I'll go to the then, and if it's not true, I'll go to the else. This is hidden, but I can find it by pressing show else. That'll be over here. If you know a little bit of programming, this is how it works. Exact the same, but it's not really difficult this. We will hide else because we will only do something when we find a match. So the condition that we have to write is that we'll say we will refer to the current row in DT sheet 1. So again, I press Control space to find the IntelliSense. Then I scroll a little bit down, I say current row like this. Then I'll say dot. Now I can say item. So we are referring to this, and I want to tell UiPath, this is actually vb.net, but I want to tell UiPath in this vb.net language which column I need to refer to. Since I'm comparing in the ID column, I'm saying parentheses, then in quotation mark, I type in the column name. In my case, it's ID, you might have a different name. Then since it's an object, I'll say dot to string. So here I'm saying look up in the current row, look up the ID, that is 2, and I want to compare it with the current row in the current line in DT sheet 2. So the reason the way I do this is just I say equal to, and then I do the exact same thing. So I'll just say current line item. It's also named ID in the sheet 2, so I can just say ID like this. Then I'll say to string. So now I have my comparison. And this one will take one row in sheet 1, and then it will loop through each one of these. Then I want to do something. And let me recap what we want to do. I want to have a yes in my newly created match column of sheet 1. So the way I do this is that I find an assign here and drag it in. So first to the left, I will specify where I want to do something, and to the right, I will specify the value. And that one is easy. I'll just say yes. So I'll just say in quotation mark, I can type in yes. Now to the little more difficult, which is really not difficult at all. If you like this video, you can help me and my channel a lot by giving it a thumbs up. Thank you, and back to the work. So here, I will update sheet 1, that is here, and I want to update it in my new column. To do that, I know I want to update the same row that we're in, so I'm saying current row like this. Then I just say item. Again, that was the column name, we're getting good at this. Then I'll say parentheses, quotation marks, and now I just need to specify which column do I want to target. Because we are here and we want to target the newly created match. So I just say match like this. We can make our workflow a little efficient, because when we have found a match, there's no need to iterate through each one of the other rows here. So say we found it in the first attempt, that is the 2 Bravo, then we don't need to look up all the other rows. Imagine that you have huge Excel sheets. This will save you a ton of power. So what I will do here is that I will search for a break like this and drag it in. A break, simply just break out of the first for each that you can find. That will be this one, and again go to here. And this one will of course take the next row in DT sheet 1, but that is fine. So we have updated the data table. We do that for each time that we find a match, and if we don't find a match, we will do nothing. Now I just need to write it back to Excel, because remember, we only have it in the data table. That is, we are updating the current row item. So we are updating this outer loop here in DT sheet 1. So I will write DT sheet 1 to an Excel. If this goes too fast, just rewind or pause the video, and it's designed for that, and that will make you understand what's going on. I know you might be here to solve a task, but please try to spend some more seconds to understand it. You will become a master in UiPath then. So I need to be sure that I'm outside the outer loop. I can either mark it, that will turn it blue, or I can press these 2 arrows up here to collapse it. Then I can be definitely sure that I'm outside this loop. So if I go back here and then I'll say right range. In workbook again, we don't need Excel to be installed. I drag it in. And now it was clever that we created a variable for the workbook path up here. So I'll just use this variable, so I can just start typing str Excel path. That is the one we use. We will delete this, that is where we start, that is A1, but I always like to delete these things if I'm not using it. Then we need to say, where do we want to write it to? Do we want to either write it into sheet 1, that will be here, we will update sheet 1, or do we want to create a new sheet? If we want to overwrite this, that is update this, then we'll say sheet 1. I like to not overwrite our original data, so I will just say, because this is the first exercise, I'll say 1, and then I'll say results, like this. Now I need to specify data table, and since we are writing to the outer data table with the DT sheet 1, and that is where we want to write to, I'll say DT sheet 1. Again, if you just want to update your current sheet, you just type in sheet 1 here in 1 results. Then I go over here to add headers because we have headers, that is ID and name, and we are ready to go. Let's try to run it. So first I will close down my Excel sheet here and we can run it. To run it, I can just click the drop down and click run file. Let's see what's going on. UiPath has run. Let's inspect the data. So I go to exercise data and here I can see I have a run results now, which is saying that we have a match in 2 and 3 from sheet 1 to sheet 2. And that is actually right. We can see here we have 2, 3, and those ones are present here. So now we found out which rows that are present in sheet 2 and sheet 1, that is the matches. I want to copy the rows that are matching, that will be 2 and 3 without this match. I want to copy those ones to a new sheet. That is actually very easy to do as well. Let's see how it's done in UiPath. So I go back to UiPath. What we will need here, we don't need the extra column because we will not add the yes to it. We will copy the rows that are matching. So I can delete this add column here. I just press delete. We will create another data table to write our results to. That is, whenever we find a match, we will copy this row to this data table so we can print it out later. To do so, I'll go to my sheet 1 here. I want to know which column headers we have. We can see it here, it's very easy, ID and name, but say we have a huge Excel sheet, then I really want to copy everything out without thinking. And one way to do it is to go here. I'll copy this read range from sheet 1 up here, so I press Ctrl C. I can go down here and let me create a sequence for it so we have it segregated. So I create a sequence here and let me rename that. Again, best practice to rename your activities. Here I'll say create result DB like this. What I will do here is that I'm copying this one, so Ctrl C and then paste it in here, Ctrl V. So I'm doing the exact same things, except I'll write this to a resulting database. And this is because I need to copy the rows to this one. So I'll delete this, press Ctrl K, I'll say DT results and press enter. So now I'm taking these ones, but since I'm only wanting the column headers and not the actual rows, I will clear it. So again, I'll find a clear data table like this and drag it in. And here I will write out to DT results like this. Now I can start adding the rows instead of updating the current sheet. To do so, let's go into our nested loop, which is here. So here we updated the DT sheet 1, but now we will update the DT results with our matching rows. And to do so, delete this assign and then find a add data row, which is here, and we drag it in. So here I need to say, what do we want to add? I want to add the whole row of the matching rows because we are here in the matches, and I want to add the full row. I can either take the current line or row, that will be the same because the two are matching, but I'll just take the current row. And to do so, I will just say current row, so I can either press Control space, I'll say current row, or write it out. Then I will say dot, and I'll say item array. This will take the whole row. Now I just need to specify where I want to write it to, and I'm updating the DT results. We can use the DT sheet 1 because we have other rows in it and we're iterating through it, so we will update a new one. So here I will say DT results, and you might see like this, it's not there. What's happening? Well, we need to change the scope. So go up here to create result DB, you can mark it, go to variables. Here you can see it. The scope is only this sequence, and we need to be defined in the outer sequence. That's like the main sequence. So click the scope here and take sequence. Now we can find it. Let me go back. So I press Control Space down here, and here we have the dtResults. Now we just need to say where do we want to write it to and what do we want to write. Since we are updating the dtResults, I'll say dtResults like this, and why don't we write it to number 2 results instead, so we don't overwrite our data. Now we just need to close it down. I can run the file here. There you go. Let's inspect the Excel sheet to see if we have updated. We have 2 results, and here you go. You have the matching rows now copied to a new data table and or Excel sheet. Our next exercise will be to find out which rows are present in sheet 1 and not sheet 2. Then we will write it out to a new sheet, and we can easily look at it here because the data is so easy. That is 1 alpha, which is not present in sheet 2, and 1 alpha only. So that won't be easy. We will write it to a new sheet. And in case you rather want to update sheet 1 with the unique values, the receipt will be to look at what we're doing now and then just modify it a bit like the way we just did it. If you are in doubt, just ask me in the comments. I'll gladly solve it for you. But let's get started. So I want to find the unique rows, and we will still need a nested loop like here. What I need to fix here with this nice thing is that we will have still writing to a results data table because we want to copy the rows to it. And then we will go down here. I need to look through each one of these and see it's not present, and then I can update my new data table. It sounds a bit confusing when we are talking about it. That's why I like to build. So let's build it together. We will introduce a variable because we cannot use this condition. We can of course see if something matches, but we can add the data row in here. We need to loop through all of these rows of sheet 2 and see that the row from sheet 1 doesn't exist, and then we can update it. So we can't do it here in one of the occasions. We need to loop through all of them and see that it's actually unique. Of course, if we find a match, we know that it's not unique, we can continue to the next one, and then we can have the break. But let's introduce a variable. We will introduce a Boolean. A Boolean is a variable that can hold the value true or false. So I'll call this bool, and then I can call it boolMatch. Again, you are free to choose your variable names. I like to have these prefixes that describe the variables. Then in the variable type, I'll change it to a Boolean. Again, a Boolean can hold a value true or false. Then we just need the scope. So I need to get it reset each time we have a new current row. That is a new row, because that means that we have iterated through each one of the rows in DT sheet 2. And again, you can see we have 2 sequences here. We have a body here, and let's fix that so we have an easier time. So this is the outer body. So just let me click this. I can say outer body, and we have this, sorry, that was the inner body. There you can see, you can easily get confused, and we have, let me go up here, we have the outer body here. So we rename it just because for easier reference. If you can handle 2 bodies, fine with me, but let's rename it so we have an easier time. We want the Boolean. That one will hold the result whether we have a unique value or not. We need to get that reset every time we have a new row in the DT sheet 1, because let me show you. We are going here. So we are finding out, is this a unique row? Yes or no. Our boolMatch variable holds the result for that. And then we want to move on to the next. So we want the boolMatch value to get reset. And the Boolean always has the value false whenever we initialize it. So it will get reset to false, and we want it to get reset here because each time we take a new row, it's getting reset. So I go down to variables again, and now we can see we can't find it. And that's because we created it. That was where we were present here in this inner body. So if I go down here, I can find it here. So in the scope take the outer body and let's just close it. We are done. So now we have a bool match. It is false. And what we want to say is that if we find a match, then we know it's not a unique row, because that means that we have a row in sheet 1 that is also present in sheet 2. Then we know, for example, this row is not unique. We can just assign a true value to our Boolean and then abort the iteration of that row. So this looks like this. So I'll find an assign here. I will go in here and I will say bool match, because now we found a match. We can update it to true. Now we know it's not a unique value. And this one here, we will use that, but not in here. So I'll Control X, cut it out. We can, if we find a match, we can abort, because then we know the current row in DT sheet 1 is not a unique value. Now we go outside, because we can close down the inner, for each row in data table inner, like this. And then we can drag in an if here. Let me show you. So I'll say if and drag it in. So here I'm asking a question. I'm saying, is the bool match true or false? If it is false, then I know that it is a unique value and I can copy the row into a new sheet. So if I say here, I'll say bool match, is that equal to false, like this? And those ones should not be in quotations marks as they are not strings. If that is true, then I can copy the rows to the new sheet. So I can Control V, I paste in my add data row. Again, I will just paste in the current row item array into dtResults. That one is fine. Let us check that our write range is correct. Well, let's write to sheet 3 results like this, and we can start the flow while we have closed this one down. So again, I click run file. Here, I'll go to the exercise data, and now I have written the unique rows from sheet 1. Those ones are the one that is present in sheet 1 and not in sheet 2. You'll see that is alpha. Bingo. Again, if you just needed to update the sheet 1 with a new column that says unique, we did it here. You just do the same procedure and ask me in the comments if you have any questions. If you have questions of a more general character, I can recommend my Discord, where we, as I'm speaking, are more than 1,700 RPA developers that help each other across different tools and in our careers. The link is in the description below. Let's get back. Because now I need to do a union. That is, I want to combine sheet 1 and sheet 2 and get rid of duplicates. Let's see how that is done. So I go back here. What I need to do is that I'll delete these two nested loops, so I can just mark the outer one, press delete. I will not have a DT result anymore, so I'll delete that one too. So you'll have a read range. This one will read sheet 1, this one will read sheet 2. And where do we want to write? Well, we want to write to 4 results. You might have it otherwise, so I'll just say 4 results like this. Now we can say what will happen. So first I will merge them, and then I will get rid of duplicates. This is very easy because we have data table activities for that. So I'll find a merge here, merge data table, and drag it in. So the source, that is the one that we don't want to copy to, but we are comparing with, that is the DT sheet 2. And where do we want to have the destination? Which data table do we want to update? I want to update my DT sheet 1. So I'll just say DT sheet 1. Now I need to get rid of duplicates, because this one will merge like these 3 rows and these 3 rows. I don't want Bravo and Charlie to be present 2 times. If you didn't want that as well, find a remove duplicate rows here and drag it in. I'll say DT sheet 1. There you go. That's how easy it is with the UiPath activities. And one thing that we need to update is we are writing out the DT results, but since we deleted that one and we want to write the DT sheet 1 as that is the one we are updating, remember to say DT and control space and find it here. So now we're having some variables that we don't use, for example, DT results. And to get rid of unused variables, a good trick is to say removed unused variables. Are you sure you want to remove all the unused variables? That's it, we cleaned up. This is always nice. Now we can run it and see it works. So I close down my Excel sheet and I run my workflow. There you go. Open the exercise data, 4 results. What happened here? We have duplicate rows. Well, let's debug it. It's always nice to live debug. If I go back here, I know what's wrong. We can go to remove duplicate rows. We need to output it to a data table. That's it. When you fill in here, you sometimes forget these. Always check these. And so the output, that will just be DT sheet 1, as this is the one we're writing out. Again, I like these live debugging. I make a lot of mistakes when I develop UiPath in my daily life, or not mistakes, but we do these live debuggings every day. And let me just delete this for results here. Yes, just to see that it works. So I close it down. I run the UiPath. Do the exercise data. I go to for results. There you go. We have only unique rows. If you want a full Excel comparison video, click the video in the middle. That will teach you everything about comparing rows in Excel, and it will introduce you to Link, which is way easier than this, and it is code. It is a very nice skill to have as a UiPath developer.